Okay, I'm going to start. My name is David Schellenberg. I own a business called Signal Noise Music. I essentially run ads on the internet for bands and artists and record labels to make fans. Next slide. I have to do that myself. I don't have to say it. The last presentation I gave, I had to say it, and someone would do it for me. This is the Signal Noise team. That's me. I just have different glasses now and a different haircut. That's Jen, and that's Mitchell and Kieran. We all work together in a 300 square foot room. Kieran is my full-time staffer who does a lot of the digital marketing. Jen does some label servicing, and Mitch does admin and some grant writing for the company at large. This is me. These are the two things that I do. I yell and play guitar, and then I also work on my computer. I play in a really terrible band called Tunic where I yell and scream at people, and then I also do computer. These are the jobs that I've had in the music industry over the last 17 years. I started in live as a 15-year-old. To date myself, I started DMing bands on MySpace to stop skipping Winnipeg. I'm from Winnipeg, I should have said that. And that led to me booking clubs, which led me to booking theaters and festivals, and eventually owning a venue, which you should never open a venue with 6 other people. It's a terrible idea. It's too many partners. Don't do that. Ideally, just 2 people is good. And yeah, and then eventually I just switched over to digital marketing because you could have the greatest show in the world at your bar, but if no one bought a drink, the show is a failure. And that was extremely discouraging to me as a person trying to promote music at large and promote culture. Because I play in a terrible, noisy band that no one should like, I didn't get a lot of press when I hired PR people, so I thought there must be another way to do this. And then I took every terrible YouTube guru online advertising class so that I could learn how to run ads on the internet. The internet. As we all know, the internet has changed music forever. Music's not worth anything anymore. You just download it for free or whatever. I've worked for so many people who are like, we gotta get this press hit. What's that gonna do? Nothing, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna be blunt. Because realistically, all the big publications and indie publications don't really do anything for anyone anymore. But in all seriousness, this is our job. That's what I said. Our job is to help artists make fans, sell tickets, and physical records, and navigate the Wild West that is digital marketing for artists, because like everything in music, we are the last to adopt any current trend. If we look at something like Netflix, that was way popular, way before Spotify was popular. So if you ever want to look at where music is going next, look at what is happening in tech elsewhere. These are a bunch of people we worked with. Yes, we worked with George Harrison. He is dead, but that still happened. Motorhead, Lenny's also dead, but we also worked with them. I realized I didn't put Leith on this. I'm sorry, but that's okay. I didn't put their name on here. Are they on there? Oh, good. Kieran put that. Way to go, Kieran. These are some of the labels we work for. I saw Jesse earlier. He's not here. Yeah, BMG is where all that other big dog stuff came from, if anyone wants to know. But the rest of this is nice indie rock, indie label stuff. These are the campaigns that you should be running as an independent artist that you can afford. And these are, essentially, I'm just going to tell you what I do for a living, and you're going to learn how to do it for free, and then eventually you're going to be like, this is really hard, I don't want to do this anymore, or how did David do this? And then you're just going to be like, can you do this for me? And I'll say, sure. The way I explain it is, you could look up how to fix your sink on YouTube yourself, or you could hire a plumber. I am the plumber. I am a skilled tradesperson in one thing. You're probably better at other things than I am, and that's fair. Instagram follower campaigns, click the DSP campaigns, and ticket sales campaigns. Campaigns 3 times. But first, marketing jargon. Here is the sales funnel. This is the music sales funnel, which is it's pretty close to a regular sales funnel. Most artists never think about this ever, and I'll give some examples of that in a second, but it's introduction, education, nurturing, affirmation, referral, and advocacy. The introduction is obviously when you find an artist and you are like, this is kind of cool, I want to check this out. So then you go and you educate yourself on them by either going to their social media, by finding them on whatever place you listen to music. Nurturing is sort of a relationship building. You spend some time on their socials, you get to know them. There's sort of like a relationship being made by them talking into their camera, talking into their phone, talking to you. Affirmation, buying a ticket, buying a record. And then the biggest one in music is the referral advocacy of being like, you got to check this out because people are going to trust their friends way more than they're going to trust someone else. The real life human example of this is, I'll use Kyle as an example because he's right here. If Kyle were to call me tomorrow and say, can you help me move? I would say, no, that's weird. We just met yesterday. And a lot of bands are like, hey, you just followed us on Instagram. You should buy a record. You should buy a ticket. And you're like, whoa, hold up. I'm not ready to do that yet. I just saw a 30-second reel that I thought was cool. And so, go back to Kyle and I, we spend some more time together. We swap stories. I lend Kyle a burnt CD because it's 2008, and we get to know each other better. And then when Kyle's like, can you help me move? I say, of course, Kyle's my friend. And that is the exact same relationship that you need to take with your fan base online. There, of course, will be people that will go from introduction to affirmation and advocacy referral instantly, but that's very rare. That's not how that works. There has to be a relationship built before you can, for lack of a better word and use a gross word, monetize that person. Okay, we're gonna go into each campaign. As you follow our campaign, it's the artist discovery. It's a very top of funnel. It's a good way to bring people into your world and see who your ideal fan base is and who your sort of ideal fan / customer is. Here's how you build it. So these are 4 different examples from campaigns that we've run in the past. That's Jeremy Albino, closest to me, Benjamin Dakota Rogers, second closest to me, Sheepdogs to the left, and Kaisa, Calgary hometown hero, to the furthest left. These creatives are supposed to look organic and natural and like it's something that popped up on your feed already. They should not have a big giant thing that's like, whoa, stop what you're doing and pay attention to me. It just seems like you have 3 seconds to capture someone's attention. Ideally, you doing what you do best is what's gonna sell it. So for this Jeremy clip, the first one here, is just a phenomenal live piece. It's from like 7 years ago. We still run it all the time and it does crazy well. This Benjamin Dakota Rogers piece is a thing that popped off that went viral on TikTok. And then we ran it on Instagram, and there are so many people like, oh my God, I saw this on TikTok. I didn't know you had Instagram. How do you not know that someone has Instagram who also has TikTok? The Sheepdogs, there's the band of guys doing Beatles stuff. And then Kaisa, that was a supercut that had like, hey, my name's Kaisa. You may remember me from this song. Cut to the song. And everyone's like, wow, Hideaway, that's so cool. It's like, I put out a new record. Cut to that thing. And then it's like, you can follow me here on Instagram to keep up with what I'm up to. And this is what I said, make it seem organic, make it seem easy. Don't be so annoying about it. This is how you measure success. Followers gained, additional followers gained on top of expected organic growth, cost per follower, and the click-through to follower rate. Everyone should sort of, before you run an Instagram follower campaign, you should see what your natural daily followers are and then subtract that from when you run a campaign. So yes, if you have a question?
Quick question. Do you mind if I take photos?
Oh, I don't mind at all. Yeah, please. And so, for example, for this artist, they were gaining 2 organic followers a day on Instagram. So then all of a sudden they were gaining 10. I know that my company is responsible for 8 of those. So if you're spending, I should have done easier math. If we're spending $16 a day and they're getting 8 followers, we know that we're paying $2 for that new follower, which is not a great rate, but that's fine. This is how we measure success. Here's where ads start. Someone was under 4K and now they're up over 9K. When the ads pause, there's a little plateau there. It's a graph, it's very understandable. And then obviously the engagement of people commenting, this sounds so good. Hell yeah. Been on repeat, I like this. Is it on streaming? Just some real genuine interaction and engagement from real people. Then there's also the Spotify trickle-down effect, which I like to call, that no one else likes to call in the office, a twofer. You get an Instagram follower, and then they head to the bio link and they click out, and they go to streaming to stream your music there. Those are just some data points. So This is 152 gained during the ads period where there was 54 in the previous period, so obviously there's a significant growth there. 89% of the growth came from the 4 markets that we were targeting, so at that time it was Canada, the UK, the US, and Germany, which we call the Big Four, and we focus everything primarily on. And so then there's just the numbers there at the bottom. Next, Spotify follower growth increased by 230%, 152 gain during those ads was 54, which we talked about. Track saves are up by 4,000% in those markets that we are running to, so people are finding the ad on Instagram, heading to your profile, outbound clicking to Spotify and listening there. It is a very sick and easy and affordable thing to do as an independent artist. And then there's a little note here that the next market only increased by 4 streams, so there is a direct correlation between the ad campaign and where we're setting the ads to where people are listening and how they're listening. Yeah, you'd be paying 15 cents for a follower. That's kind of like the ideal number. It's kind of like the crushing it number, if you will. Strong creative, strong targeting. There's been a lot of conversation about if targeting matters. It still does, but what matters more is the creative now, because we live in 2024 and your job is to be a content creator. That's the reality, I'm sorry. Let's talk about targeting. Let's talk about targeting good countries, targeting bad countries. Lookalike, blah, 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 all this other stuff, remarket. What's the next slide? Oh my gosh, I have to talk about all this. I thought there was gonna be more stuff. The targetable countries that you should focus on is Canada, the US, the UK, Germany, unless you have, try to avoid the more botted territories such as Central America, some further, Eastern European countries. There is just a lot of spam and a lot of bots, and you will be gaining followers who you will most likely never play to, who will never pay to have a record shipped to their house, wherever they live, and their primary language most likely isn't going to be English. And so a lot of people will send stuff to Brazil to blow numbers up, and that just looks like shit, to be frank. And it's just one of those things that isn't worth it. Interest targeting is, we use something that we call affinity targeting. We use a third-party software called Chartmetric, where you can check to see the brands related to your artist. And so, for example, I had a singer-songwriter from Vancouver who is in her late 20s, who is engaged, and all of her brand affiliation was like Lululemon, makeup, other stuff. And so there's use the targeting of what you think your demographic looks like. And so it's different for each artist. Obviously, you can, it's changed quite a bit on Meta about what you can target, but it's just essentially think of what sort of things is your fan going to be into. Yes?
Would you recommend targeting more so tier 1 countries than others?
Targeting, sorry.
Tier 1.
Yes, exactly. And I would just focus on that. I'd rather everyone do that and pay a little bit more for tier 1 countries than pay for secondary markets, because it's not going to create any real fandom. It's just going to be vanity metrics and smoke and mirrors, and that's not going to actually grow a career for you. Yeah, interest targeting, just stuff, bands, other artists, genres. Yes?
Sorry, I'm green on this.
Sure, that's fine.
So if you are, when you say interest targeting, those are essentially ways you can customize your digital ad.
Yeah, so it sends who the ads go to. So if you're like an indie folk artist, you can be like indie folk as like an interest, and you can be like Andy Schaaf or whoever, or like other sort of artists and brands that would fall into that category. Lookalike is creating oh, sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned the fact that her targeting was Lululemon and things
Yeah.
that were music related.
Yes.
Do you still feel like that's beneficial?
Yes, very much so, because music, you want your audiences to be as large as possible. It used to be, when I first started doing this 5 years ago, 1 million people is enough people for an audience. You now want that audience to be about 100 million people. And Canada's way too small of a country for that. So you want to do some strong targeting for that. And so, yeah, we have been pushing away from artist-based targeting and mostly brand-based targeting, as that has been far more successful and like a broader scope of people. And the more people that you bring in, the more the Meta ads algorithm learns, and so more people can pull from that database of people that you pulled from. Lookalike targeting is feeding your pre-existing fans to the algorithm to find people who look and act and have similarities with that. So for example, we'll use Kaiza as an example. She has, I don't know, we'll just pick a number. She has 75,000 Instagram followers. We can give those 75,000 people to the Meta algorithm and say, find me millions of people that look like these 75,000 people. And so that's just like, and then that's sick. So there you go. There's ideally millions of people that should be sympathetic to your music. Sorry. And then remarket. That's just remarketing to your pre-existing fan base. So people who have engaged with you on socials, people who are subscribed to your newsletter, people who have bought from your Shopify store or anything like that. Click the DSP campaigns. It's always Spotify, let's be honest. That's it. That's the one that everyone cares about. Those are the numbers. I don't care that you have Apple Music. I don't care that you think you're a better person than me because you have Tidal and you pay people a cent per stream. The industry isn't looking at those. They're looking at Spotify. Again, top to middle of funnel work. Here's the creative for this. It should look cool. These are 4 very different examples. This first one is Benja, where it's more of a TikTok style with the caption on the screen, sort of giving you a hot, quick, this is what it's all about. The second one is Michael Bernard Fitzgerald, another Calgary hero. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
What does DSP stand for?
DSP, digital streaming. Yeah. And then this third one is Photocrime, who's kind of got like this gothy, moody vibe thing, so that's why it looks like that. And then the fourth one is a house music sort of playlist thing that we ran, and it did really well because this soccer boy is apparently very famous in that genre.
How do you determine what is a good creative for a client, especially if it's a new working relationship?
We will take inspo from other people in the genre, just sort of like the same way as like songwriting or anything like that. You'll take that. But what we do is we will throw about anywhere from 25 to 100 different ads at the wall and see what sticks. And so that's a combination of verse 1, verse 2, bridge, chorus, this copy option, text on screen, text off screen, guitar solo, whatever. And then we just say go, and then we let the public decide what connects. And so then that can really inform what you do next and what you do on your organic side too. So let's say it's the bridge of a song that's popping off on your paid social campaign, then you're like, okay, all my organic social posts will be using this chunk of the song because this is the part that the general public has been reacting to. What's this next slide I got here? How to build it. So these are the 4 different copy options we used on just this one. And so we used this creative 4 different times with these 4 different copy options. I think the one that won was just Think Back to Marco meets the Beatles, handshake emoji, great emoji. But yeah, so we'd run that, and then we'd also run different parts of this same clip with other copy and other parts, and that would build out the 100 to 50 versions of stuff that we run. This is also just a very cool lo-fi. It doesn't move, nothing happens in it. It's just them lip syncing to the song. It absolutely crushed. Yes?
So that's a song that's not actually theirs, right?
No, it is theirs.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like they're just putting that text on there so you can instantly see like what to pull from where you want your brain to go. Marketing. Okay, this is also a hot topic discussion. Traffic versus conversion ads. What's the next slide? Because I don't know what it said. Oh my gosh, Kieran. Traffic campaigns are a very simple campaign that everyone can do. They're very bad, so don't do them. It just sends people directly to a link. But you could swipe up on accident on that link. You could press it on accident. It can go somewhere to an app that you don't have on your phone, like to Spotify if you're not a Spotify user. And so those clicks cost you money. And there is no real incentive It's a very low stakes, very easy thing to do, and there's no AI learning with those ads at all. So it's just like you saw something, you clicked on it, it took you somewhere, the ad thinks its job is done. Whereas a conversion ad takes you to a third-party landing page service or something where there has to be a second click that happens, which thus shows true intent that you actually want to go through and actually want to fuck with whatever you just saw in the ad space. And then there's AI learning with that too. So for every conversion that happens, when you click on the third-party landing page, Meta goes, check mark. This is the people that we're looking for. This person is in this age range, they have these interests, they live in this location, it was at this time of day, and so the ads will then learn and be like, okay, I'm gonna try and find more people like that and bring them in.
Is it third-party landing page? That's something as simple as like a link tree?
Yeah, it could. I wouldn't use Linktree because you have to pay to have a pixel on it, and the pixel is the thing that sends the code back and forth from Meta from a third-party landing page. You can use something like a ToneDen or a Feature FM or sort of something like that. And for someone like yourself, like there's a ticketing platforms that have that integrated as well. Obviously not with Ticketmaster, but there are some other ones where you can do hard conversion data that way.
See those names?
ToneDen, Feature FM, Foundy is my personal favorite. Feature FM, I shouldn't be endorsing because I got into a fight with their person because they're it's not very good for the digital ad side. It's fine for a landing page, but I did find that like 60% less people click through a Feature FM page. So don't do that one. Take that one away. I know I just said its name 5 times. ToneDen, Foundy, those ones. Don't. Sorry?
Why is Foundy your preference over ToneDen?
It's very easy to use, and ToneDen breaks all the time. ToneDen broke this morning, and I lost my mind. And so I spent money building my own third-party landing service that Signal Noise uses internally so that we have a dev that we can report to and who can get things fixed if we need to, because I'm really tired of ToneDen breaking. Measuring success, the cost per conversion, the click-through rates, increased followers, track saves, playlist ads, and then relevant sources of streams, aka your active streams, aka like, sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of backpedaling.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go here.
Would you recommend or not recommend using your own website if you can install?
No, yeah, use your own website. That's great. Just make a secret landing page, like on Squarespace. I've done it all the time. It's a pretty easy thing to do. No problem. This is measuring the success of your click to DSP campaigns, which I talked about just minutes ago, seconds ago even. This is the most important one, this one at the bottom, the relevant source of streams, aka active and algorithmic, artist profile, catalog, listener's own playlist, library, radio, blah, blah, blah. All those things are where your real streams happen. They are not passive streams on a user-generated playlist that you bought using Submit Hub. There are people heading to listen to your music and listen to it at full. And the people doing that informs the algorithm, and the algorithm will push your song to more people once it has more data. So that is really what we search for. We'll get more into that later because there's this. This is just a cool graph of when ads started and how they gained followers on Spotify. Great job. Oh yeah, numbers. So, we measure all these things and do math. I only have a high school, so this is the only math I can do. It's consumer. But follower growth was 14% higher while running ads. Playlist ads increased by 312%, and that's people adding your song to their playlist because they're like, I like this song, I want to add this to my library, I want to continue listening to it. It's not them adding it to another playlist and then them trying to push it out. Track saves, very easy. So, people saving your song. All things that point in the right direction of the holy God that is the algorithm to help you get more algorithmic streams. Let's see what's up in here. Ooh, the pie chart. I corrected this recently. This was recently the wrong way. So this is the control source, which is the top chart, is a sort of pre-ads. And so that's sort of where those source of streams are. We can look at that. A huge part of it is editorial. people want editorial so bad, but really it's just passive streams that just give you vanity metrics and you feel good about it and you get a dopamine hit and that's great for you. But there is no fan building happening there at all. That's just the reality of it. Algorithmic plays, also very vanity based, but people trust the algorithm more than they trust the editorial playlist because it's tailored to them more. Artist profile and catalog is only 6.8. As you can see in this top one, listeners queue, other, yada yada. Then we go to the bottom one, and after running some ads, the editorial space has dropped significantly. The artist profile and catalog has doubled, which is bringing people directly to your profile to get them to listen there. And then the other thing is listeners' own playlist and library has grown significantly, which means that people found the song, saved the song, which all informs the algorithm, and thus the algorithm grew significantly. Yay. This is just more of the same thing. I really don't want to talk about this pie chart. You get it. It's fine. This is the same thing. Just the same photos, but bigger. We're going to talk about selling tickets because that's the only thing you're going to make money is because you're going to bring people to your shows and then they're going to buy your merch because at the end of the day, your job is to sell someone a souvenir from your live performance. Let's be honest. Because the guarantees are just going to pay for your hotel and your gas and that's it. Unless you are a bigger band. This is not the YouTube logo, don't be described, Selling the live experience, selling tickets for a live show is selling the live experience. All the time people are like, here's a graphic of me talking about the tour. I don't care about that. I want to see the show. I want to help create FOMO. I want you to see the experience that you are going to be at if you buy a ticket. So here are rooms full of people enjoying live music. And all the time I have clients being like, well, why don't we just do this? I'm like, when you see an ad for Six Flags, is it just a picture of a roller coaster? No, it's people on the roller coaster, enjoying the roller coaster. So why would our ads for the shows be any different than that? So it's not rocket science. Take that, please take that with you. Please don't run a tour ad that doesn't have any sort of live or any sort of like, this is the thing that you're going to experience at this. This is how we build it. It's interest targeting and lookalike targeting, which we talked about earlier, and then a warm remarket. And so it's a funnel approach, which is the theme of this talk, is funnels. But we'll do interest targeting and lookalike targeting, and then build those two run at the same time, and then we build a third one, which will go here if those two are here, which is a remarket to people who engaged in these two things. So if someone clicked once, someone watched 15 seconds, someone decided to follow, etc., they get funneled into the warm remarket because they showed enough interest in the initial two campaigns that they are now going to get hit over the head until they buy a ticket. And that's our approach for that. And it has been working, which you will see on this next slide, ideally. No, it's comments about the ads instead. This looks fun. Roller coaster metaphor, again. What's the name of the song? This person. Okay, the great thing about this black comment thing here is that this manager of this band hates ads so much. And so I screenshotted that and I texted it to him. I said, take that. But it was one of those things where it's just like, I don't care if you hate ads. I don't care if the person looking at the ads hate ads. That person ran to the finish line and bought a ticket. And that's all that matters. That person probably left with merch. There's your ROI. There's your return on ad spend. That's that. Heck yeah, see you Wednesday, as that one person said. You also get to see, you also get the additional love of getting Instagram followers from running ads on Reels and Stories. So people signing up to essentially be like, I think this is cool. I want to know more. Proof. Ads. People, 2,000 more followers in an additional thing of trying to sell tickets. Because, I don't know if you know this, you can turn your followers on social media to become customers and future ticket buyers. So that's also a great goal. This is the stats on selling tickets. We'll just look at one of these. We will look at the Vancouver one, which is down here. So here's the duration of when we ran the ads, January 17th to February 12th. We spent $570. The tickets sold during advertising was 332. The weekly average of sales before we ran ads was 21. So what's that? We'll just call it a month for simple math. So we'll just call it 20 so I don't have to do harder math. That would be 80 tickets. So 84 tickets would be sold without ads, but during the ads we sold ticket sales, we sold significantly more. So we started averaging 74 tickets. These are all examples of that. These are also healthy budgets. Some people in this room may know that San Diego is an impossible market to sell tickets in. Looking at you, Matt. So that was good. We're going to go to the next one. Oh, we're at the end. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask me a question about? This is also my email, if you want my email. I forgot this slide before. But if anyone has a question, Matt, you have a question? Sure.
How do you convince a band or an artist, not convince, but how do you talk them through, or maybe out of avoiding ads because they're worried of how it may come off as like phony?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. At this point, I can just show them the results of what.
Maybe some examples.
Yeah, exactly. Of just being like, do you want to sell more tickets or not? Do you care how people came to your show? It's really at the end of the day, because you won't, because they're there.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the. It's kind of like they're just sort of stuck in the Stone Age, where it's just like you're not going to see a poster and go to your local record store and buy a ticket anymore. Your whole world is on your phone. Why not talk directly to your fans via the phone? Oh, sorry, Kyle, you're next.
What about when it's like in the case, like a band I manage, one person's really good at doing the social media, but
Mhm.
trying to like encourage the whole band to take part in it, so it's like the whole band and their story. But maybe like one member is like, I hate being on camera, I hate being any kind of visual aspect besides just playing the music. Like, you can show the facts about that, I guess, but how do you kind of like break down those kind of barriers?
I would tell them that they need to get over themselves, and that's I don't know what you would expect from playing in a band in 2024, to be honest. Like, I just mean that's the reality of it. And then I also just think that you should, if they want to play live and they want to play music, then you should cancel all your music videos and just shoot content for your phone and focus on that, and it can be them playing live, and don't spend any money making a music video anymore. You can just make 100 pieces of content instead of, and it can be whatever they want, and then they never have to think about it ever again. Because I bet that person has been filmed playing live before. So if you want to do it that way, you can just take it to that approach, especially if you are a live-centric band. Sorry, you had a question? Yeah.
So you mentioned that you learned a lot from courses online and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend, are there any courses you recommend you take, or like YouTube channels that you have?
Yeah, I like these people called Indiepreneur. They're all really on a really weird kick right now about trying to Shopify integration. There's people I don't like. One of the people I do and don't like Andrew Southworth, who's a big.
Don't you like it?
Why don't I like Andrew? Because Andrew doesn't have a career in music. Andrew runs ads and gets streams, but that guy has no hard ticket value at all. He does not have an agent. He does not have a manager. He's like, look at all these streams I got. I'm like, I don't care. Do you sell tickets? Can you go on tour? Does anyone actually going to show up? And whereas in the Indiepreneur guys are kind of on the other side of that too. So their big band is this band called the 502s, which is like probably the most vanilla band I've ever heard in my life. But they blew up via social to the point where they are now doing 1,000 cap rooms and are managed by some big dog. And it's just like one of those things where it's just like, yeah, so that's that. And then, sorry, there was a question in the back earlier. Was Bex, or Bex, you had a question? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm sorry, your name's not Bex, it's Rebs, I'm sorry.
That's
But
okay. I'm the other Rebecca.
I know.
You put a lot of focus on meta platforms,
Mhm.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
But also, I think meta is a very fickle space that none of us own.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, is there anything you're doing in terms of insurance for, like, as you're running
Sure.
campaigns, data collection that can be applied outside of meta
platforms?
I love this question so much because the email list is the holiest of the holy. Lay low is obviously another one, but I also think that sending SMS to people is really annoying. So I would say that as we know, social media changes all the time and certain ones come in and out of vogue. I think that's how I use that word. But the email list is the best thing because why would you not want a direct way to talk to your immediate fan base? So you should make a mailing list and you should collect people's emails so that you can reach them forever. To go back on that, this sort of goes to, let's see how far I can go back. Oh my gosh, why was there 43 slides? Okay, here we go. Going back to this funnel, a big part of about collecting an email, think about any e-commerce clothing brand that you go to. They're like, here's 15% off on your first order when you give us your email. And so you as an artist have to be like, I'll use myself as an example. I gave away 8 unreleased songs that I promised would never be on streaming, never be on Bandcamp, and the only place that you could get them was by signing up for our newsletter. And so we got 500 people to sign up, which is great, and I now have those people's contact forever, and they got something that was exclusive, thus the education, nurturing phase of creating a relationship with a fan. So I do think that, yeah, that is the best thing to do, is obviously collect emails, but also open rates are pretty hard, but it's a combination of, you can upload your mailing list into the back end of Meta, into TikTok, into wherever, and also hit those people with ads. So the more data that you have on these people, the better.
I was just gonna tag on a question to that. So have you tried any SMS marketing? I was curious whether it's doing better.
I know some people who do, but SMS is for the hardest of the hardcore fan. I don't want to get a text from any artist that I love, personally, but maybe that's just me, old man yells at clouds sort of style thing. But I do know artists who have sold $1 million in merch from a merch drop from doing text marketing. So it really just depends on the demographic and how loyal your fan base is.
When you're working with a click-to-DSP campaign, would you recommend focusing on, how many songs would you recommend on focusing?
I would try 3. I would pick 3. I'd pick your top 3 songs on streaming, and I would focus on those. And then it would become pretty quick. You'd be able to tell which one is.
So then you would narrow it after?
Yes, and so we just call it trimming. We just trim the fat on stuff all the time, where it's like, here's the 50 ads that we have running. These are the 2 that are doing the best. We're going to turn off these other 48, and we're just going to focus on these 2. And sometimes people get mad at you because you're like, I wanted that song to win. I'm like, I don't decide that. I'm just the guy. I just built it. I can't decide what the public wants. Yeah, go ahead.
How long do you test ads for, and also how long do you run a successful one?
I test ads within the first $100. So within the first $100 of a spend, you should be able to tell what is working and what's not working. You can sometimes even tell much faster than that, but for most people, I say $100. How long? Great question on how long you should run it. If you have the budget, never turn it off. Just slowly narrow it down so that it's $5 a day. And if it's just like, it's going to be primed, it's going to be smart, it will have learned everything it needs to know. And I have a lot of clients who don't turn off their high-performing ads. They just lower the budget, then increase the budget when they have more budget, and they just let it ride. So for myself, for my own project, I have a $5 a day ad running that's been running in the background for like a year and a half. And it's just like, every day I'm like, oh, I have 10 new Spotify followers, or I have 10 new Instagram followers every day. And it's just like, it's great. It's just sort of like a fan-making machine that just runs in the background.
Can you give an example within each stage of this funnel? What have been some of the most successful types of creative that you run? Like for an introduction, what has been like a successful type of creative for that? Like, are you showing performance?
Yeah, so it's typically performance. You're typically selling what you do at the end of the day. For intro, I'll go back here. Education is sort of organic social. So a lot of like, that's when you see that extremely cringe but necessary post of like, I got a lot of new followers recently. Here's what I'm all about. Like that's sort of like what that education, sort of phase is about. You see that a lot as pinned posts on people's Instagram too, where you're like, here's what we're all about, and it's like a supercut of you doing crazy shit. The nurturing is sort of like that asking and receiving, and sort of like that's like that email newsletter sort of step, and that's sort of like that. I want help pick the set list tonight. Do this, sort of thing, sort of like that. How you would build a relationship with a friend, except for you're a person on the internet talking to strangers, but just have to think about it that way. We're like, here's what I'm listening to right now. Here's what influenced this record. A label like the Flenser does this really, really well, where they've been doing instead of doing press releases and sending people off a social media platform, they're doing all their pull quotes on a graphic that they make and that they post on social. To just be like, this song is about this. We ripped off this song to make this. And so it's sort of just like a really nice sort of just like easy way for someone to digest that info. Affirmation is just someone buying something. And then referral advocacy is someone telling someone about it. So, yeah, sorry.
I have a question. So what are some of the challenges that you have with clients? And how do you
So many.
manage those challenges with like clients?
Sure.
So things like client expectation and like just reality.
Sure.
Right. So you might run a campaign and the client's like, well, I expect to get like 1,000 tickets sold, or I'm getting like 500. Like,
Yeah.
How do you sort of like walk through those type of conversations?
I don't know if you noticed during this talk, I'm extremely blunt. And so I am just extremely blunt with them. So I have had people who've been like, I want the song to have 10,000 streams. I'm like, that's not going to happen. What I will do is I will bring people who are interested in your music, and I can tell you how many people stuck around and how many people decided to be there. I send these reports that I've sent to you, I send them as examples to everybody. It's like, here's what you can expect. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. And that's just sort of the reality of the situation, because at the end of the day, I do the same thing every day. Yes, it is tailored to your artistic practice, but the biggest factors in this is the quality of your music. And so that maybe takes the onus off of me, but like I know that what I can do works, and so then maybe it's always hard to go back to the artist and be like, this song isn't very good, or this creative isn't very good. And so sometimes I just say no to people when they come to me and they're like, I'll work with you. I'm like, you're not there yet. That's the reality of it. Sorry, someone had a question back here. Thank you.
Let's say like someone like came to work with you for a bit, would you like give them the information of like the
Yes.
graphics and stuff, so if they wanted to like take that over?
Of course.
Yeah.
So we run all of our ads through our client's ad account, through their credit cards and on their business manager, because it's their data. It's not our data. We are just contractors who come into your house, do the work, and so if you end up teaching yourself how to do it, I've had a lot of clients who have just been like, can you turn this back on for me like 6 months later? I'm like, yeah, sure, I don't care. I'm not going to charge you for that. Like, I did the work. Like, that's fine.
How can you go about, like, in the early stages of this, setting realistic goals? Like, what would that look like?
Of which part of it?
Successful
Yeah.
campaign, like, what's like a real, you're saying I want 10.
Yeah.
How do you set realistic goals?
I think that you just need to look at what you're getting already and seeing if that's increasing, and to see if it's quality people engaging and listening. Because right now in music, I'm just going to go on another little rant here, I'm sorry. I didn't know who Noah Khan was, and then he sold out the stadium, and everyone in their music space now is a silo. And so you don't have to have like a big streaming numbers or whatever. You can just have a really, really tight and dedicated fan base that really loves what you do. You don't need to be this huge person. So as long as you're bringing in quality people who are caring and engaging and sticking around and commenting and listening repeatedly, that's how you can tell if it's successful. Cool. John.
So let's say you have a show in 3 weeks.
Is this a real example?
Yeah, let's be more specific.
Yeah.
So let's even name an example band.
Sure.
Okay. So what band should we name right now?
Well,
Just say, anybody say a band.
the Deers. The
Something else.
Pantera. No.
Something more local,
Sure. We'll do Kiaville. We'll use Vicky as an example.
Okay, great. So there's a show coming up in 3 weeks. You have $100 to spend on Instagram, okay, you have your reel set up,
Mhm.
you you promote the post, you make the link the ticket link.
Mhm.
Now your option is your location
Mhm.
and the keywords.
Yeah.
Your location is Montreal because the show's happening in Montreal.
Yeah.
Maybe you make it smaller because sometimes if you say Montreal, it makes like a big pool.
Yeah, it'll be the whole island. Yeah. Yeah.
What are the keywords, like how specific do you get? Because like, let's say you have a rock act, and you just write rock, I'm sure that's like a huge pool.
Well, yeah, you don't need
So
Foo
the
Fighters
people that
band.
see it,
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't even matter. So
Yeah.
give me specific like keywords that you've seen like have real value.
Sure. So genre-based targeting for extremely niche stuff. I will say that you're running these ads via Instagram off of your phone. Yeah, and so I would personally never do that. So I would do it in the back end on a computer via Meta Ads Manager, because then you can pull from your pre-existing followers on your socials. You can get attached to the artist's socials and pull from their social followers and target them in the location that you're doing. And then I would do it on the app. I would do it on the app, and then I would, for keywords, I would just do the most extreme relevant things, especially since you are just looking at Montreal, and we talked about this yesterday about how Montreal, I have so many artists who will do 700 tickets one place and then do 200 tickets in Montreal because it's a hard market for vanilla-y stuff. And no shade to my clients, I guess. But I would do like all the genre-based targeting, and then I would do some like really sort of cool, whatever you think the coolest thing that those people would be into, which is a hard thing to do.
For Kiev.
So for Kieville, it's experimental, it's drone, it's ambient, and then you try and find real life examples. Who's the oldest person I know that's into Kieville? And so for me, I'm like, that's Don Wilkie. Don's 60. That's probably too old. I'm going to knock that down to Ian from Constellation. Ian's 54. So I'm capping this at 54. And I'm doing it between the legal drinking age and 54 of, then I would like expose all the big bands within, like I would do, I know for Vicky, for Kieville, who's this experimental artist on Constellation, I used to work there. I would do like Bjork or something, some sort of like more of the heavy hitters in that sort of space, or like.
You were saying something about like brands.
Yeah, and I would also do brand affiliation. So for like someone like Vicky, who is an audiophile, I would do all that like Sonos and like Beats headphones and all sort of that sort of like really nerdy audio, like Ableton or any sort of software like that, like that sort of like beat maker stuff. But then you would.
When does like clothing brands come into play? You were saying like.
Yeah, I would do clothing and stuff like that too. I mean, that's a harder one for that example. But
are you rolling the dice when you do that kind of stuff?
No, we've all seen it work in the past, and we pull from a third-party website that collects that data for us, and so it shows us. Yes, go ahead.
You shared that third party earlier. Can you share it again?
Yeah, it's called Chartmetric.
Chartmetric. Okay.
Yeah, it is extremely expensive. So there's a free version. It's true, but it is the second highest cost in my business besides my staff.
But it is kind of an industry standard these days.
Yeah.
And so even just like going on Chartmetric and claiming your artist profile is really important, and populating it with any like missing links and stuff, because it's just pulling from the internet. And so as you're developing and building, you might have to manually populate your stuff, but then your numbers are going to be more cohesive.
More accurate.
More accurate, so that if somebody goes to look at your profile on Chartmetric, then they know, like, hopefully they're getting a bigger picture, like, or the full picture of, like, your numbers across the board.
And it is the biggest A&R tool in the industry right now, which you are very aware of with Leith's.
TikTok and Chartmetric.
Yeah, are the two biggest things where people look for, because there's actually a little segment within Chartmetric that's like AR discovery tool, and you just like go to see like who's the biggest artist with the most streams who's not signed, and then the majors just go on there and they're like, cool, I'm gonna go after these people now.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff there too, just sort of like certain playlists like popular playlists on Spotify, for example, you can see a pie chart and the breakdown of like the market share. So you can kind of get an understanding, just like.
That's where this is from. This is from Chartmetric.
Managing like your expectations when it comes to, yeah, this stuff that you can.
You also get your artist rank, and it's really depressing to be like this 600th, 1000th.
When you take a break for a second and then it says like right up top, steady decline.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, it's like, how's your steady growth? It's like, it's
growth.
yeah, exactly. It's very disheartening, but it is like the most powerful tool in the industry now, and it's just.
It'll also tip you off to like if you're getting radio play that you're unaware of in markets that you maybe haven't even like put a campaign in, that you can see like where you might need to chase down some royalties or.
And we do it all the time to look at like, I mean, Matt, I don't know if you use it, but it's like one of those things where it's just like, well, what's the hard ticket cost? Like, what's the value of this band in this market? Well, it's like, I can just go look and see. It's like, okay, they have 500 followers in this city.
Mm-hmm.
We can at least expect, ideally, 100 of those people will come. So, it's kind of just like a way to gauge that. And if anyone has any other questions, now is your time. If you don't, thank you for coming. Yay. No, yay to you.